Hello, welcome back to Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching. This is Erin. Today I have the very special honor of interviewing Dr. Stephanie Minter. Hello, Stephanie.
How do you do?
Hello. So Stephanie is a friend of mine. She also happens to have gone on a retreat with me, my coach training, and my yoga teacher training. It's been really awesome to have her as not just a friend, but like a resource in these trainings and things because she has such a unique perspective. So today we're going to talk about her approach to wellness and maybe even get into some of her branding stuff, which is very exciting. So
Sounds good.
yay! So thank you for being here. So tell me a little bit about what brought you into natural healing, as well as you obviously have a background in Western healing, and there was a certain point in your career where you started to look at like merging the two of them in your mind, and that's sort of the direction that you're going in. So do you have a specific turning point to where those worlds collided?
Well, I did a few things before coming through medicine, and one of those included massage therapy. I did a lot of different things like marketing, consulting, project management. At some point in that mix, I decided I really wanted to get back to what I felt I was called to do, which was, help people or heal people. And so because I was working with some West Coast clients, I could go back to school during the day, always the eternal student.
Oh, yes.
And so I went and did my massage therapy training. So I did that for a while, in total 9 years, including the 1 year before I went into medical school. The transition point that I'm experiencing now and really the push forward from here is because even Western medicine, although it's standardized and is peer-reviewed and proven by statistics and repeated studies and repeat observations, not all medicine is one size fits all. Right? And so what I'm finding now, in my realm of practicing internal medicine or hospitalist medicine, primary care inside the hospital, is that there's much need for people to go deeper. We can give medicines, we can give people advice, we can teach them about their conditions, but then they're left to their own devices, they're left on their own. And I think there's really a niche there. There's a place for us as healers to come together and bridge the gap, bridge science and Western statistical peer-reviewed documented medicine, and then bring in all of the wisdom and knowledge from Eastern sides of medicine so that we can create a more holistic approach in healing in general. So addressing the immediate needs, but then moving forward with some sort of permanence.
I love that because I feel like the world that we live in today, there's such a polarization. It's either like you're one or the other, right? And the pendulum swings one way and then the other. I know for me personally, what got me into natural healing was I just felt, I remember I was having intestinal issues. This was, probably over 15 years ago. And I was going to get an x-ray of my insides. And they sent me home to drink a couple pints of barium, which is disgusting. Even though it's supposed to taste like bananas, it did not taste like bananas.
Chalky bananas.
Chalky bananas. It was gross. And, I was just like, I was suffering so much. The people at the reception desk were nice, but so maybe it was like a little bit of like the insurance issues and like they wanted to throw pills at me. And then I remember I took the day off of work and, they're like, oh, by the way, like your insurance isn't covering this. And I was like, a phone call would have been nice because I literally drank 3 pints of that. They're like, oh yeah, well, we have to bill you for that. I was like, well, I'm going back to work. They're like, as soon as you drink water, it's a natural laxative. So, and I was like, okay, great. So that was like when I, sort of started to become my own self-healing advocate. And I like what you're saying because I believe that Western medicine definitely has its place. But I feel like there can be a merge or a marriage of Eastern philosophies because this stuff's been around for like hundreds of thousands of years, and having, being able to take from different realms as far as your practice and offering that to people. And then also I'm a huge fan of people not feeling helpless when it comes to knowing and healing their own bodies. And because of all the background that you have, just like massage therapy, yoga, coaching, like a licensed doctor, like all these things coming together, you have such a unique perspective to offer people.
And there is a time and place for everything. And like you said, the Western medicine is there. The culture really in the system that we exist in, right? Because we're confined by the system. There's so many things that doctors and physicians in the world can do, right? But we're confined by the system that we work in.
Right.
And so we're limited in some ways. But if you can take that foundational, like I want to say traditional, because traditional in my mind is really the Eastern stuff, right?
Right.
Those were the traditions, those were the rituals, those were the things that people did to really promote health, longevity, those kinds of things. Western medicine, I think, sometimes is a bit more focused on sick care or trying to reverse, that point where you reach a critical event in your life. Maybe it's a heart attack, maybe it's a ruptured bowel, maybe it's, a major infection somewhere. Truly, that's where our Western medicine shines in saving people from the brink of catastrophe,
Absolutely.
From the brink of death even. But where do we go from there? How do we build a better being? How do we build a better living? How do we exist in this body? And that's where we find proper places, and we really find more meaning in incorporating all of our wisdom, all of the Eastern philosophies, acupuncture, Ayurveda, yoga, and all the things I'm learning about that right now. Breathing, gosh, I mean, who knew? Simple things such as breathing. Breathing is medicine. And so I think that's important.
Your breath is medicine. I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's something simple like breathing. It's, one, it's free. And then two, it's, people, I think, underestimate the power of simple practices like breath and moving their body and like the basics like sunshine, water, like I commented on your beautiful, slightly caramel skin.
Got some tan today.
Yeah, I'm not a little jealous maybe because I'm so wet, but no. Having the bases covered, but also being able to pull in some Eastern philosophy as well as Western. Tell me a little bit about like your healing journey. Like, what was the biggest lesson that you learned on your healing journey? And I just want to say also, almost every healer I've met that is really good at what they do has a story of their own healing. So I'd like to hear that.
Well, those close to me know kind of what I went through, but those of you out there who don't know me, and maybe you've experienced this too in your life, we have a tribe of people called wounded healers. And so, maybe very early in your life or something like that, you've had to find your survival mechanism. And so that was my life as a kid. I had loving parents around me, but they had some addiction problems. And so I grew up in an alcoholic environment, and there was lots of volatility. So there's this hypervigilance all the time. I learned to grow up real quick, and I didn't realize it then, but as I went through this sort of multimodal education, I call it, or this journey that I'm on, I learned a lot about somatization and how trauma from your childhood or from an event even, we think about our military personnel and what they bring back with them, how that is manifested in the body. And so the body is intelligent. The brain does a whole lot more than we're conscious of and that we know of. So I think my journey started when I realized how much I was trapping in my body, how unwell and how much pain I felt. So moving beyond that and incorporating, talk, whether it was talk therapy with a counselor or a psychiatrist or however it started, it has evolved. I've gone through all these different paths now, and I'm incorporating a community of healers, not just the ones that, you put your insurance card for. There's lots of ways that you can start healing, and some of that is just talking, right? So just speaking your experience. And so that's kind of where mine began. Not being shamed by it, but really growing from it. Not post-traumatic stress disorder, but like post-traumatic growth, really a friend of mine
Ooh, I like that.
wrote that in her post the other day. So I was like, yes, post-traumatic growth. And it really can be. So my healing really began from my heart, right? I had some scars on my soul. It wasn't necessarily that I had physically experienced any trauma, but certainly was manifesting in my body in ways that I didn't care for. And so I began that journey, and I found massage therapy was one of the first things I did. Touch. I mean, think about how much lately, because of COVID, we haven't been able to touch. But this was long before then. And touch meant so much. I mean, just in general, here's the different, East-West kind of philosophy. In Westerners, we have our bubble, and thou shalt not invade my bubble. But ultimately, touch, gosh, changed my life. It was a safe, I think that's when I could establish a safe feeling. Like, how did it feel to be safe around other people? And so that was like a critical point for me. Safety. And then really I was able, because I felt safe, I was able to explore more modalities and more things. And gosh, I just loved it all. So again, a professional student, I have not stopped learning, even after 12 years of training to become a physician. I continue on. I do coaching, I do yoga, I do all these things because I have found the value in them.
And that makes you so fascinating. You don't get stuck in, like, I'm like that. I'm like, ooh, I'm hungry I'm not like married or monogamous with one particular healing modality. Like, I see the benefit in different ones, and then I'll educate myself and incorporate little pieces. Like my coaching program, which, thank you. So, like, it's such an honor to have you here and that you went through it. I pull from different aspects of, because healing is complex, and we are complex. It's not so simple as, okay, like, yes, diet is one thing, like, and that's great. But like, what about mental hygiene? What about emotional hygiene? What about some sort of spiritual connection? What about being in nature? And what you said about touch, yesterday I met with Derek because we're getting ready to put on our silent retreat, which, by the way, going to do a little plug for that. If you see this, if you hear about this, the 16th and 17th at Thrive Yoga and Fitness, Derek Hawkins and myself, we're doing a silent retreat. If you want to sign up, we have some spots, thriveyogafit.com. So he gave a little analogy of, like, you know what, sometimes I feel like one of those, he's like, those little stress balls, like, that you squeeze, and then I guess there's like a head that comes out. The bubble
comes out,
yeah. So it's like the body's real tight and tense.
Yes.
And then it's like the jelly head. Yeah, it's like, and he's like, when I get touched, when I get massaged, I feel like that tension that's stuck in my body that makes me go up into my ego, up into my head, to where I disconnect from the, you can say God, space, universal, spiritual aspect of myself. Like, it disappears. It's like disconnecting, like a wave thinks it's not part of the ocean because it's like, oh, I'm a different shape, like, here I am. And then, but we all know that a wave rises up, but it's never disconnected from the ocean. It's just a matter of remembering. And touch, I'm a huge fan of touch. As you know, we did elephant yoga, by the way, on Monday, and we ended with a big cuddle puddle. Like, we just tackled each other. And that, like, how beautiful. Incorporating, like either showing people the value of that or incorporating that into practices. So, you have such an impressive background, Stephanie. So there's the touch, there's the coaching, there's the yoga, there's like Ayurveda, there's like, obviously your whole practice as a physician. How are you going to mold that together, or is it maybe unique per person that comes in?
Kind of both, right? The whole point of me trying to go one step further, right? Everyone thinks, oh, you've become a physician, you're finally done. I'm like, no, I'm not done. Because there's so much more we can do for each other. That's it. That's essentially the point, is that not everything works for everybody. And so to try and use standardized medicine, right? Standardized. It's important to do so because we know we can reproduce those results to some statistically significant level. And that's important, right? That's important that you have confidence in what you're doing, especially me as a physician prescribing or even addressing chronic disease patterns and things like that. But not everything fits for everybody, right? I mean, what works for you works for you. What might work for you might not work for me. And I think, what's important and maybe what I can do for people that's different is to start to introduce them to all the different things that might work. And I don't have any hard and fast algorithms that I follow, but certainly I want to be that facilitator. I want to be that person who can be the steward and kind of guide people through, here's who you are, this is what you're coming with, where do you want to go, and how can I help you get there? And just introducing them to different paths and letting them try in a safe space. Try some movement, whether that's, just walking, or whether it's, meditation and walking. Introducing them to different types of foods, maybe that's just a diet change, or maybe it's, mindful eating and meditation while eating. We have to take ourselves to the next level. We have to experience ourselves in different realms. And, I have a lot of people out there that are like, I'm just not going to do it. Seems a little woo-woo. But how are you going to know yourself? How can you really experience your true self, your true form, your true life, living your best life, your biggest life, if you haven't tried? So I want to make that safe space. I want to make that safe environment, and I want to take people there.
I just love that about you. Like, ever since I've met you, you're just like such an open mind and like so knowledgeable, but so humble. There is a difference, I think, between becoming a savior for people to where people is basically like you're giving them a fish each time. Yeah. I know that phrase is just so overused, it's cliche, but really teaching them rather than you being their savior, being their coach in different ways, right? So guiding them back into themselves, so that they're aware of their patterns so that they can start to change it. So you creating a safe space for them to explore these different paths, and you having the knowledge to sort of back it up and fill in the gaps, respects their integrity and their uniqueness as an individual rather than, just follow this template. Yeah. I think that is where, if I might say, that is where medicine should go. That is the path that, again, it respects the uniqueness of the person, because everybody's going to come with a different thing. And, it's like, for example, meat was something that I ate a lot of for a while, and every single acupuncturist I've gone to, they're like, you need to eat beef 3 times a week. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess that's good for me. Since I've been back from my silent retreat, my body just doesn't want it. I literally went to Selva Grill in Sarasota, and there's one dish, it's a chimichurri steak. And I know, it's so good. So I ordered it, and it's just out of habit. Then it came, and I was like, I can't eat this. And it was shocking. So, my body came to a certain point where it's just not appropriate for me anymore. And, being empowered to have someone that, I feel like healing should be a partnership.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't treat it that way. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm super picky with the people that I work with, because I am very knowledgeable about my body. I'm very in tune. Do I know everything? Of course not. And everybody has blind spots. So when I go and work with someone, I'm working with a gastrointestinal specialist, I like that he respects that I am in tune with my body, and that, he might suggest things and I'll try it, but it might not work for me. And then I can bring that information back to him and he will adjust the plan. So having more healers that are like that respect a person's, their own knowledge and their own connection with their body, I think it's sacred.
Yeah. And that's the hard part too, is getting people to have that body awareness, or that self-awareness. So that's another key component that we need to start working on from a medicine perspective is how in tune are you with your body? I think you and I take it for granted because we've been working on it for so long. Yeah. But in my experience, there are people who just don't have that connection with themselves. They exist inside their brain, and they don't really experience their body. They don't really experience their enlightened selves. I mean, we don't have to dig too deep into spirituality, but you exist in many different forms, right? You have many different manifestations of you. And ultimately, you've got to know all of them if you're going to really be whole and well and happy. And those are all the things that, hopefully as this, as we move forward with this endeavor that we'll be able to do for people.
There's this quote that Matt actually mentioned by Nietzsche, and it was, do not cast out, and I might be saying it slightly wrong, but do not cast out the darkest parts of you lest you cast out the best part of you.
Right.
And, that I'm right in the thick of doing some shadow work.
Well, we've talked about shadow work. Yeah.
But my friend Tio, which if you're watching this, hi Tio, he gave me like the best compliment to where I just started tearing up, and we've been pals for a while. And he said, I see these different pictures of you. And in one picture, you're doing roller derby. The next picture, you're like, doing yoga. The next picture, you're working out. The next picture, you're being cuddly with your friends. He's like, I feel like you're the culmination of all these different goddesses that have different aspects and explore the world in different ways. But then, like, they're housed in one vessel. And I was like, thank you for seeing me. But everybody has that.
Yeah, and I want people to see themselves. I do.
Yeah.
I do. That's important.
Yeah. So, helping people to connect. So I feel like you're like amazing because you can connect with people on an intellectual level, like you have that about you. And besides that, you've definitely got the fucking credentials. It's like, look at the wall.
It's been a while.
Look at the wall
I
over
have
here.
a few pieces of paper with my name on it. Just a few.
But you have that, but you also have the ability to connect with yourself, and you walk the walk. Yeah. So, that is valuable. By the way, if you're watching this, that is valuable. So it's like when you pay for sessions with a person like that, you are paying for the time that they put into themselves and invest in themselves, because they are turning on their innate wisdom so that they can be, I'm going to say the word guru for you, so that you can activate your own inner guru. But if you go to someone that is disconnected from that part of them, and it happens in yoga too, like people just go through the same flow. People are uninspired. It happens in every profession, right? Medical doctors, holistic practitioners, it's like the dust has settled over them and they're not doing their practices to connect with them. When you find someone like Dr. Minter here, she's the type of person that is a student forever. And that's the kind of person that you want. You want a person that is fiery and passionate and pushing themselves and getting out of their comfort zone, because she is exploring the different aspects of herself, so that when she sees you, she really sees you. And she knows the aspects of herself so that she can clearly see the aspects of you and not put you into a box like your mind will. So, because you can do that on your own.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So you work with the general public. Can you tell me just a little bit about your role as a physician, sort of like what you're doing?
Well, right now I'm working as a hospitalist, so I do general medicine or primary care inside the hospital. So I see people in their most vulnerable state. I see them when they don't have any other options, right? I mean, you get admitted to the hospital, there's definitely something that needs to be fixed, repaired. Sometimes people need surgery, sometimes people need specialists and things like that. I'm more of the person that looks at the whole picture. So right now I guide the team. I make sure, everybody's needs are met. I make sure communication is happening. And of course, from a very general perspective, from a very primary perspective, I am the first point of contact. So, I'm the physician for that patient as long as they're there.
Lucky you.
Oh.
And lucky them. So you see a lot of people. Is there, sometimes just in these times, there is a pattern that we see. So as far as a pattern that you've seen maybe in the past year, what do you think people are lacking, like overall, and maybe there's a couple answers for this, to be whole and to be healthy?
Interestingly enough, I've seen a lot of young people, and when I say young people, I'm still talking 30s and 40s and things like that. A lot of people with diverticulitis and inflammation, like inflammatory bowel conditions. So I really think we're starting to see the effects of our diet choices, probably different elements in the environment and things like that. But, I think people need to start paying attention to gut health at this point. Really, really do.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ayurveda, like everything starts in the gut, right? So all disease starts in the gut. So if you're not taking care of that,
Yeah. Well, we said breath was medicine, right? So
it is.
Food is medicine, right? It's the first thing you put into your body. Food is medicine.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I just had a lot of gastrointestinal issues, so I guess I mean, I agree. I definitely agree with that. And I have found maybe you can relate to this. For me, when I'm too stressed and I'm not able to fully connect with myself, even with all the practices, even with all the tools, I have my rough days. My body is not able to digest my food properly. It's almost like I can't digest life. Mm-hmm. And then it's funny because then I switch to mostly a plant-based diet. I go and I sit in silence and like I'm out in nature like 5 hours a day, and like it's like thou art healed.
Yeah. And not a lot of people have that luxury. Right. So you and I are making the time. We have gotten through that break point where we recognize it, and now we see it's essential in our lives and we can make time for it. But how do we get other people to realize that they can make subtle changes in those stressful times or in those critical moments in their life? If they know something's coming up, can they plan for it? If they know they're about to go through a major life change for whatever reason, positive or negative, either way, I think we can give people the tools to really figure out how to navigate that better. You don't get a handbook when you're born about, here's the guide to you and here's all the things you can expect. So people like you and I can come together and we can really create this knowledge base to give people tools and hope. And that's, essentially why I live. I live to give people hope. Without hope, I'm not sure what we have left in life. But truly, there's a spark of light there inside everybody, and that light, that fire burns brighter when we feed it, when it's well rested, and when there is energy exchange. Energy exchange between people, energy exchange between the environment. But ultimately, when you're in those stressful moments, good stress or bad stress, or you have huge stress and bad stress, we can do things for ourselves. We can do things for our bodies. We can do things to make our environment more nurturing, be kinder to ourselves, kinder to each other.
Compassion.
Yeah. So it's just subtle choices that we can make. I mean, I'm not the best at it, right? I love chocolate. But chocolate is medicine, right?
Yeah.
Where are my Hogwarts people?
Doses,
Where's my
right?
Hogwarts people? Chocolate is medicine. And we'll talk about that too at some point. But ultimately, medicine is what brings you back to wellness. And so medicine can exist in many forms if we just look at it that way.
Yay, I love that. And that is a great segue into medical grade Mischief, which would be the name of your upcoming podcast. And Stephanie is going to be launching her brand and her practice. She's kind of building up to that. So can you tell me a little bit about that vision that you have?
Well, it's called Medical Grade Mischief. I just, I wanted to push the boundaries a little bit. I think I can, safely, and, keep the credibility and the credentials there from my physician training, but incorporate all the different parts of me and all the different phases of knowledge and all the different training I've gone through to really explore what is medicine or where other philosophies might be appropriate. Because this knowledge has been around, much longer than we have. And so there's wisdom in there. There's healing in there. And so podcast by podcast, we'll explore a little bit more of what medicine is, what it could be, push the boundaries a bit, explore. Maybe I'll ruffle some feathers. That's going to be okay. But I really want to have fun with it. I really want to light some curiosity, invite people to ask questions and start to have really good, healthy, intellectual conversations about what is medicine, where did it come from, what are we doing now, and where can it go?
Much needed as far as I would say like a modern approach to medicine is pulling all these different modalities and bringing them together in one podcast. So keep out on the look for that. And are there any quotes that you would want to give to our listeners? Some sort of final parting words?
Yeah. Kind of a teaser into my brand development. There's a quote out there that I love. It's called, "The cure for anything is salt water, sweat, tears, or the sea." And so I think it's important that you incorporate movement, mental health and emotional healing, and communing with nature, or getting out there and making some environmental connection. So sweat, tears, and the sea. So the cure for anything, salt water.
Yay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Stephanie Minter.
Thank you
for being here. And I hope that you guys check out her podcast. And yeah, if you want to reach out, you can listen to the beginning of this podcast, and I'll have her links, and then you can look in the show notes. So I hope that you have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for dropping in, and namaste.